Okay, I'll just introduce you.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to my show, TikTok, where we talk about what makes successful people tick and what it took for them to pursue their passions, follow their dreams, and achieve their goals. I first met my guest when he was about 11 years old, and I was, well, kind of in the same age bracket, give or take a decade, and he was a kiddie reporter for the show Five and Up. I was jealous when he went to Pisay or Philippine Science High School, my dream school, because I didn't pass. So instead, I went to Masay or Manila Science. I was even more envious when he took applied physics in UP, one of the hardest courses there, while racing in international triathlons and protesting in the streets as a student activist and leader. Next thing I knew, he would rise to fame as an award-winning reporter and broadcast journalist, movie actor, screenplay writer, and now documentarist, digital creator, and activist, and the country's first Goodwill Ambassador for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Please welcome Atom Araullo. Hi, Atom. And leader. Next thing. Hi, Atom.
Hi. Hello. Sorry, I was fiddling around with Facebook para ma-share ko yung link natin
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Ano, how are you? Breaking news?
Mabuti naman.
Ano yung breaking news?
Yeah, merong there's something, well, I don't want to
preamp.
Start on such a sad note, but there's something happened yesterday in off the coast of Occidental Mindoro, and merong fishing boat na binangga doon, no? So may mga kababayan tayong hinahanap pa. Hopefully mahanap sila, but yeah, ganun ang nature ng work namin eh. So
wow.
We just had to interview some people para.
My goodness. Hinga muna. So it's your 16th year as a broadcast journalist, tama ba? Or 15th year?
It's my let me see. Kung kasama yung Studio 23 days.
Oh.
That's 2004 pa. So
mga 16 years.
Tama, ang galing.
And for all this time, you're considered a veteran journalist, no? What's it like? Ganun pa ba yung thrill?
Well, yes.
Or iba na?
I would say ganun pa rin. Syempre, over the years, parang merong konting evolution of the work that I do, and also yung attitude ko towards this kind of work. Iba pa rin yung adrenaline rush of doing it for the first time, no? When I was straight out of college. Actually, meron pang 1 year na break bago talaga ako pumasok sa ganitong klaseng work. But when I first became a field reporter, that was 2007 with ABS-CBN back then. Iba yung adrenaline rush ng covering all of this breaking news, being in the field every day, and so on and so forth. Ngayon, it's a different kind of challenge. But I think one of the great things about this line of work, siguro kahit anong work naman, it really depends on us, no? Pero parang merong opportunity to kind of shift to a higher gear. Parang ang daming iba-ibang forms ng storytelling.
Right.
Na hindi mo mamamaster ever. So parang there's always something new that you can try. And parang lalo na ngayon, because the field of media is constantly evolving. It's one of those things that is quite restless kasi yung trabaho ng media, it's directly tied to yung speed ng development niya is proportional to the speed of technology. So now that we're seeing different modes of communication, social media, definitely, parang we have to keep up. So our work is constantly changing, and kailangan kaming matuto rin. So that keeps me on my toes.
And I do see your presence all over social media now, and parang even if you say in the last 2 or 3 years, madami ring nag-change, di ba?
Sobrang dami. Last 2-3 years lang. Kasi, remember, Facebook was not even a thing before 2006.
Right.
Can you imagine life without social media right now?
Right.
I mean, we lived during a time that social media was not a thing. And parang unang lumabas yung mga cellphones that changed our life. Sige, balik pa tayo ng konti. Nung unang lumabas yung mga pager that changed our life. And then, cell phones. I remember getting my first cell phone when I was in maybe third year high school. It was a gift from my ninong. And parang that was mind-blowing, parang connecting to people anytime, anywhere. Kasi before, di ba, pag nagkwento na ako, but before, when you wanted to meet up with your friends, you had to call them on the landline, and then you had to set an exact time where you would meet in a restaurant or in the corner somewhere. And then immutable yun, hindi mo pwedeng baguhin yun kasi kapag hindi ka nagpakita ng ganong oras, di mo masasabi sa kanila, wala silang telepono eh.
Oo.
But that changed our life, and then the internet came along, and all of a sudden we could search for anything on the internet instantly, and then dumating yung social media, and I was already a reporter when that became a huge deal. But when I was a reporter, kahit na may SOCMED, hindi mo pa namin siya nakikita as directly related to our job. It seemed a separate thing altogether.
Oo, pang-promote lang siya.
But now, yeah, I mean, the newscast that I just finished, yung photo finish ko before logging on to our chat, is a digital newscast. It's 100% online.
Right.
And we rely on Facebook and the algorithm of Google to capture the young audience. So ganun kabilis, we have to really keep up.
So the medium is the message talaga now more than ever. And how has this changed the way you report? Like now, speed is of the essence, right? Because your competition is speed. So sometimes, minsan baka hindi pa buo yung report, or you needed more time to, spend more time fixing it. But now, unahan, di ba? So, paano yun? Anong...
Yung speed is really, is really... Kumbaga, kung dati akala namin mabilis na kami sa TV.
Oo.
Kasi pwede kang mag-break, pwede kang mag-set up ng satellite van.
Oo.
And then you can break the news, no? Tapos parang sabi namin, bilis ng TV, kawawa naman yung print. Kasi yung print, hindi nila pwedeng ma-publish yung story until the next day.
Madedelay.
Parang yun yung sabi namin, yun yung advantage ng TV because we are quick. We don't have the same depth in daily reportage as a newspaper kasi parang they can really put all the details that you want in the news in a text story. Pero at least parang visually very engaging siya tsaka mabilis. Ngayon, bago ka pa makapag-set up ng van mo para makapag-broadcast, yung storya nasa social media na. Meron nang nakapag-post ng video na bystander.
Tama.
Binibreak na ng mga colleagues mo sa Twitter.
Tama.
And then parang, by the time umering story mo doon sa primetime newscast, sa 24 oras, or sa iba pang like TV Patrol and these other platforms, kung nag-breaking story na umaga, kalat na siya sa social media. So parang all of a sudden, yung fast, kailangan maging instantaneous. So we even have to be faster than before. But that also comes with a lot of challenges kasi kapag the faster that you are, as you compete to be the first to break the news, Ang danger naman nun, baka hindi mo makuha ng tama yung mga detalye mo. Baka mag-sacrifice ng accuracy.
Tama.
So, you have to make sure that there's a right balance kasi hindi naman pwedeng mabilis ka nga pero mali yung info.
Tama. So, how do you maintain the balance between speed and journalistic standards and accuracy? Ngayon pa naman, di ba, with social media comes all the fake news and all the, since marami na ngang, di ba, they can just report anything, you still have to maintain your veracity.
Yung nangyari ngayon with the COVID-19 crisis, it really marami rin kaming natutunan sa media.
Right.
Dahil especially during this time, it's really important for us to get our facts straight before we report anything to the public, because it's really a matter of life and death. It's a public health emergency. If I was already careful before, I'm even more careful now.
Right.
And I tend to really look at something from all angles and also talk to the relevant professionals and experts before sharing information, because I know that even though it's important to be fast, it's even more important to be accurate. Kasi in the age of misinformation, in the age of fake news, even though your intentions might be good, kapag nag-share ka ng maling info, baka mawalan ng tiwala lalo yung audience sa mainstream media, sa mga media professionals. And that might blur the lines even further between professionals and those who are not bound by the same rigor that we have to apply to our news reports, no? And even others who are talagang agents of misinformation.
Right. And you did make corrections during your COVID reportage about data, di ba?
Well, yes. Luckily, hindi pa naman ako kailangan mag-issue ng erratum. I do remember sharing a scientific journal about a study that some scientists did about the virus, the SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19. The study said that the virus was evolving, and I shared that study, only to realize later on na parang even if the report is accurate, so dito na pumapasok yung other layers of consideration. Kasi hindi naman, it's not enough for the report to be factual. Right. It's also important for the report to shed light on the real situation, to uncover the truth, and also to not to create undue panic. So, reconsider ko yung pag-share, and in fact, I deleted the post and then I shared another article altogether that basically had a more circumspect parang take on the situation. Kasi kahit na totoo na nag-evolve yung virus, sabi nga ng mga experts, hindi naman bago na ang mga virus ay nag-evolve talaga. It's really in their nature to evolve. And the question is, does this evolution, is it something that we should be concerned about? And the quick answer is not really, because we expect the virus to evolve. And it's not evolving in a way that would make our efforts to control it irrelevant. Parang it's still important to find the vaccine and so on and so forth. No? Without going into the details, kasi I can get a little bit nerdy when it comes to these things. Parang sabi nga nila na naisip ko na maybe it's best to just to delete the post and say that just read this article instead, because it really explains what we're dealing with in greater detail and in a much more relevant way or useful way.
So you went on the side of responsibility.
Yeah.
Towards like what will it achieve? Like will you incite more panic or not? Buti na lang scientist ka.
Nakakatulong. I mean, I wouldn't say that only scientists can deal with this kind of information. In fact, I do encourage everyone to look at the data and to not be intimidated by it. But I have to say that my training in UP as a physicist, nakatulong kasi hindi ako natatakot sa numbers. Parang to me, it's just another language that just has to be dealt with, you know.
Right. I watched your COVID documentary and it's really painful to watch. Tama ka na nakakadurog ng puso yung mga naungkat mo doon. Is that would you consider this to be like one of the most trying or challenging and heart-wrenching subject matter that you have ever dealt with or reported on?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, easily one of the more challenging topics that I had to cover. I mean, all stories naman are challenging in their own way, and it presents a different set of emotions that we have to deal with as journalists who cover these stories. But in this case, kasi I think what's really different is parang it's a story that we are all experiencing in real time. Even the journalists who are covering the COVID-19 crisis have to deal with the same challenges ourselves. And parang it's a developing story, so we really don't know what's in store for everyone.
Right.
Parang kung siguro it's better if I make a comparison. Kunyari, nag-cover ako ng isang natural disaster, isang bagyo. Pupunta kami doon and we experience the same hardships, sure, lalo na kung tinamaan ka rin ng, kunyari, na kinover namin yung Yolanda in 2013. Totoo na nalagay din kami sa delikadong sitwasyon noon. Pero sa isang banda, merong separation kasi parang at the end of the day, alam ko na uuwi rin ako sa bahay.
Tama.
Uuwi rin ako sa Maynila tapos parang I'll be in a safe environment. Pero with this kind of public health crisis, there's nowhere to hide it.
Right.
We are all, bagay yung level of vulnerability natin, iba-iba. Parang yung mga nakatira sa mga masisikip na informal communities, mas at risk sila. Pero if you think about it, everyone is exposed. Kasi parang ako, nagko-cover ako, hindi ko pwedeng puntahan yung parents ko kasi mga seniors na yun. Hindi ka rin sure kung ano ba yung mangyayari sa quarantine. Parang hindi ka rin sure kahit sa trabaho mo. I'm luckier than most kasi I still have a job, but parang even the future of media organizations are in question kasi we're also affected by the crisis, no? Parang we are severely affected, I would say, na maraming shows ang hindi umi-air ngayon and so on and so forth. So lahat yon naging part nung pagkwento. Parang I had to make sure that I approached the subjects with empathy and wala akong illusion that parang I can approach this subject in a neutral manner,
right,
in an unbiased way. Because how could you? You cannot. It's impossible.
Right. You've covered everything from typhoons, of course, to earthquakes, to the plight of refugees, and then now COVID na hindi mo alam pagka-report mo kung uuwi ka pa or hindi. Di ba? Baka diretsong hospital na. Saan ka kumukuha ng lakas? I mean, natatakot ka pa ba? What keeps you going and going day in and day out during these times?
Serious na mga questions mo, ha?
O, diba? Mamaya na yung hindi serious.
Okay lang. What keeps me going? Well, I mean, I really like my job. That helps a lot kasi I enjoy having that kind of privilege. I think it's really a privilege to be in the front lines of history and to be witness to to history unfolding. And parang not everyone has that kind of access and that privilege. And I like the fact that I'm able to do these stories and to share them with other people. And in the decade or so that I've been doing this work, nakita ko kung gaano kalakas ang kapangyarihan ng mga stories and images to change how people think, to encourage them to study the world around them, and to also spur them to action.
Right.
And for me, that's the most important thing. So even though there are challenges in many different forms, some of them are physical challenges while covering a story. Some of them are emotional, having to deal with all of these sad stories. More often than not, they're sad stories. There's a mental aspect to it, parang dealing with the pressure, with competition, with expectation, and so on. Parang every once in a while you do a story and then parang it makes it all worth it. Parang
right.
Parang reset. Parang pagod ka na, parang tanong mo, ba't ko pa ginagawa to, ganyan. And then parang you do a good story. And then you say, that's why I'm doing this. Parang ganyan.
Right.
And so far, ano pa naman ako, that sustains me. And also the fact that I keep also challenging myself to learn something new and to not parang rest on my laurels and be comfortable with something just because I'm already reasonably adept, or I've found a reasonable amount of success doing what I've been doing.
Right. Does it ever get to you, like, syempre firsthand mo nakikita while we are all in the lockdown bubble of baking bread, you were right there at the forefront, di ba? Nakikita mo lahat ng nangyayari. Does it ever get to you, or naririndi ka ba when you have to tackle things about the destruction of the environment, the way COVID is being handled, and then ngayon, the anti-terror bill. Does it ever get to you, and how do you deal with it, or does it spur you to even help change things? Di ka ba nagiging hopeless?
Alam mo, before I answer that, if I had like an oven in my place,
I would bake bread too.
I would totally bake bread. It's so therapeutic.
So people, please send bread and baking kit, a sourdough kit to Atom.
Yeah, actually, nga ako. Natuto nga ako ng di oras na magluto ng konti, gumawa ng mga smoothie and so on. But anyway, what was the question? Parang
does it ever get to you, like, the more you see how things look more and more bleak and hopeless and terrible?
Well, it does. I don't want to be cynical. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I want to be realistic. I want to be, I don't want to lose hope, but I want my hope to be based on reality. Meron din namang problema with, sabi nga ng iba ngayon, there's a new word for it, yung toxic positivity, right?
Yes.
Parang, I think there's a right balance. Now, while my eyes are wide open and I see these many challenges that we're facing, both in terms of public health, in terms of livelihood and the economy, but also the political situation is something to be concerned with. A lot of people have spoken up about the anti-terror bill and all of those things. It does get to you. And, as a journalist, there are also a lot of challenges facing the profession right now, di ba? Sabi nga sa assessment nga ng UN, yung climate for journalism in the Philippines is getting worse, and I have to say that I agree. You do get concerned about your safety as well doing this job, but parang what do you do? Hindi naman pwedeng, you can't get paralyzed, di ba? And you can't stop doing your job because you're scared. You try to do what you can, and you just try to keep yourself safe as much as possible, and take care of your mental health when you can. You know, that's something that I've been learning little by little. I'm not very good at it, but dati naman hindi naman kami conscious yun sa mental health na yan eh. Ngayon na lang yan nagiging kumbaga mas nagkakaroon na ng awareness yung mga tao sa importance niya, na hindi lang yung mental illness na umaabot na sa punto na meron ka ng mental disorders, but before it comes to that, in the same way that we take care of our bodies, we have to take care of our minds.
Right.
So I try to do that.
How do you do that? Have you been running again?
I can't kasi, it's not that I can't. I think sa GCQ pwede na naman. So we've been under GCQ for a month. But there's so many question marks that parang I try to do what I can within the confines of my condo na lang.
Right.
But in terms of mental health, you know, I could definitely be better at it kasi I have a lot of bad habits eh. Parang yung sleeping pattern ko is not so good. I've been eating more healthy, I suppose, but and I try to exercise when I can, at least mga 3 times a week. But more than that, you know, yung parang sabi nga nila, I should learn how to meditate, and what else? It's been recommended. Ito, yung mga ganito, actually, yung talking to your friends over Zoom or whichever your preferred platform, malaking tulong din siya.
Right.
Nakakausap ko yung mga friends ko from way back from high school, and that helps.
So you moved out 2 years ago, right? Or mga
2017. So
3 years ago. And it was kind of late for a Pinoy guy because most Pinoy guys, I think, never move out. If they could stay at home forever. Baliktad eh. The women are raring to go out. Like, I moved out at age 20. Parang the girls...
Totoo ba? Pero tama.
The girls can't wait to get out of the house, but the men will stay home. Kasi may free laundry and free food. So what's it been like? Do you feel more grown up now at your age? Or what have you learned about relying on yourself? Especially ngayong you're really relying on yourself because you're alone.
Oo. Well, better late than never. Sa totoo lang, ano naman eh, parang sa Filipino culture naman, hindi naman tayo, wala naman yung move out at 18, di ba?
Tama.
And parang you want to stay with the folks as long as you can. Parang walang reason for me, for the longest time, there was really no reason to move out. And then, ano na lang, just parang kahit nga walang reason, sinabi ko na lang one day na parang, sige nga, try lang natin just so I might learn something about myself. Right. And for the most part, marami rin akong natutunan at napilitan ako to be more mature. I don't think my level of maturity is anywhere near people my age. But at least I grew up a few more years because of the need to be self.
Isip bata. So let's go back to your kabataan. Ito na yung mga hindi serious. So you were a shy kid, according to you. Wait, first of all, were you named after the August 21 movement? Pero 1983 yun eh.
Hindi.
Coincidence lang.
1983 yun. So misconception ng maraming tao. I was born in 82 eh. So ang Atom is actually Alfonso Tomas.
Okay.
From the name of both my grandfathers.
Sabi kasi ni Nestor, mali pala si Nestor. And you come from a close-knit family, which is probably why hindi ka raring to move out, di ba?
Oo.
Your family is very close.
We're very close. It's a small family. So I have one sister, she's Sandra, who's older than me, a month in, sorry, 1 year and a half. And then, yeah, my folks. And we've been doing everything together since I was a kid. Kasi yung parents ko, very hands-on.
Right.
And ang naging bonding activity talaga namin nung bata kami is sports.
Okay.
Nung bata kami ni Sandra, pareho kaming natuto mag-swimming. Tapos nung teenagers kami, naging triathletes naman kami. And every weekend, and even, lalo na pag summer, walang pasok kahit na weekdays. Kasama namin yung papa ko, siya yung nag-drive for us. Minsan kasama rin si mama. So, talaga kami. We spent a lot of time together.
Right.
And alam ko, kumbaga, not everyone is lucky to have that kind of setup. So.
Right. And they were very devoted in supporting you to pursue your interests, di ba? And you often quote both your mom and dad for the things that you learned from them. Would you mind sharing what you learned from each of them? That's most
from each of them
striking. And
from my, saan ako magsa-start? Sa AirPods ko kay Papa. Si Papa siguro una parang si Papa kasi very salt of the earth yan eh.
Wow.
He made a living and he supported the family with the work of his hands. He is a mechanical engineer and he manages a dry dock in Navotas. It was a family business galing yan sa lolo ko. And siya talaga yung hanggang ngayon siya yung nagma-manage ng business na yan. Pero ang skill talaga ni Papa is by using machinery to create stuff. No, he's ganyan dyan nagre-reflect yung kanyang creativity. At sa bahay namin, lagi siyang maasahan pag may mga maliliit na bagay na nasira yung ganito, kailangan ipa-repair yung ganito. Siya mismo yung gumagawa. Siyempre, in his older age, kumukuha na siya ng mga trabahador, pero alam niya exactly what to do. You know? And that's a skill that I really don't have. I take it for granted kasi nung bata ako, para pag may sira, ayos na eh. Ngayon na mag-isa na ako, parang yung mga maliliit na bagay parang yung lock ng pinto na stuck. Kailangan ko nang gawin yun mag-isa, tapos parang ang hirap pala nito.
Hindi kaya ng physics.
Hindi eh. So parang yun yung isang skill na gusto kong kumbaga na-appreciate ko sa kanya. Pero more than that, it's really his nurturing personality. Na parang honestly, si Papa trabaho, bahay, and then family na talaga. Tapos parang walang luho at all. Parang yung mga damit niyan, lumang-luma na, kami pa yung nagbibili ng damit for him. Yung ganun siya klaseng tao na parang isipin talaga agad what's best for the family. And he's very supportive of the different things that me and my sister wants to do. And parang I admire that in him. And yes, parang sa isang banda din siya. Meron siyang wisdom na na hindi parang worldly wise, parang ganon. Parang street smart at alam niya he has a knack for dealing with people eh. Hindi ko agad natutunan yun eh. Hindi ko agad natutuhan yun about him. Parang it was only later on in life na narealize ko when I also had to deal with people. Na parang, actually, galing ng people skills ni Papa. He's also very shy. He's kind of, sa kanya ko naman na yung pagiging introvert ko. Pero, alam niya how to deal with people and he can really bring people together. And that's also something that parang I want to learn from him.
Right.
Si Mama, ganun din. Magaling din makipag-usap sa iba-ibang tao na may iba-ibang mga interest at iba-ibang mga pinanggagalingan. Pero ang talagang pinakamatingkad kay Mama yung kanyang public persona rin. Na people know my mom for her decades of social activism. She is a doctor by training. She graduated UPPGH, but instead of pursuing a lucrative career in medicine, she chose to do volunteer work and to devote herself to her causes, no, to political causes as part of Bagong Alyansa Makabayan. And parang growing up, nakita ko na talagang she really had a heart for the downtrodden, and she parang kahit na nagkakanda sakit-sakit na siya dahil lalo na ngayon lumatanda na siya eh. Kahit na delikado, kahit na hindi na siya kasing robust as before, talagang hindi siya mapakali pag hindi siya nakakatulong at hindi siya contribute doon sa mga causes that are very dear to her. At doon ko nakuha yon kasi I got that same siguro yung importance ng fighting for what you think is right, and also the importance of standing up for your beliefs and standing up for others, especially those who can't fight for themselves. Doon ko natutunan yan eh, kay Mama. Kasi napanood ko yan sa TV, napalo ng truncheon sa ulo, nagdudugo yung ulo. Alam mo yun? So parang ako biglang, wow, that's my mom. At parang nung pagdating ko sa college, bigla ako naging curious na parang, ano ba yun? Ano ba yung pinaglalaban niya? Wala naman, sa bahay naman, di naman namin napag-usapan yun eh. So,
talaga?
Yeah, it has to be to cross my
nangyari din sa'yo, di ba? When you were a student activist, na-tear gas ka rin, hindi ka naman na-truncheon, pero nakulong ka rin for one night.
Na-truncheon din.
Na-truncheon ka rin?
Oo, nakulong din, pero overnight lang naman, buti na lang. Yung mga water cannon, ganyan, tear gas, all of those things, no? So, and the fact that my mom is also a political activist, and my dad is also, has a strong heart for social justice, parang buti na lang dahil sa hindi nila ako pinigilan dun sa ganung klaseng mga pursuit ko nung kabataan ko. And in fact, they were also very supportive of that journey.
Right. Did they give you advice when it was also happening to you? Or
they did. Lalo na my mom, when I was in college, we had a lot of debates. We still have a lot of debates. About parang bakit ganito ang pananaw natin sa kunyari. I would read some of their statements kunyari sa bayan. And then sometimes hindi ako agree.
Okay.
Parang bakit gano'n ang posisyon ninyo? Ganyan. And then we would talk about it. For the most part, I would learn from her. Pero parang meron ding times na parang ina-acknowledge na parang actually you have a point. And parang I think we have to be more nuanced in explaining why this is what we think about a particular issue. And I really enjoyed those back and forths with my mom. And we still do that today.
So what's your latest debate?
Latest debate? Ano nga ba? Well, we talked about the anti-terror bill. And parang what she thought about it, being a martial law veteran.
Right.
Parang, how was it like back in the day? And parang, do you think this is something that would be abused? And, yung kanyang experience is really, it's, it's precious. Kasi parang on the surface, parang people who have no direct experience with
yes, they have no idea.
With open with
the free
fascism
press.
with a fascist state. When we had martial law, I mean, I won't even talk about the situation now. Baka it's too controversial for some of the people who are watching this. But parang back in the day during martial law, fascismo talaga yun eh. I mean, universally acknowledged na naman yan. Although may mga deniers pa rin nung nangyari noong martial law. Pero pag naramdaman mo yung ganun na parang pwede ka talagang damputin dahil lang sa isa kang political enemy at pwede kang ikulong at pwede ka pang patayin. Mas magkakaroon ka ng appreciation why importante na ma-assert na yung mga batas natin actually protect us and hindi mo binibigyan ng pagkakataon na maabuso yung mga batas na yon. Because some people say that all laws can be abused. Totoo naman yun. Pero it's like saying that parang a murderer can use anything to kill you, even a spoon. Pero ba't mo naman bibigyan ng baril? Diba? Parang totoo naman yun. But we have to make sure that our civil liberties are protected. Our human rights are protected. Diba? So that's how I think about that. And it's nice to have those discussions with her.
Right. Yes, I remember still being in UP when Marcos was still here, and I could not even bring the Philippine Collegian outside of UP because I was afraid if you're seen reading it, baka damputin ako. Ganun yung fear ng everyday person. Parang, wag mong
kaya nga parang yung assurances parang hindi, it really doesn't, it's not effective when they say that, huwag kayong mag-alala, hindi naman ito gagamitan sa mga dissenters. Ngayon pa lang, may mga arrests na questionable. May mga legal organizations na sinasabing terorista. So, paano yun? Pag nagkaroon na ng batas na mas matindi yung binibigay na kapangyarihan sa mga nagpapatupad ng batas, then parang you can understand why people are kind of afraid or concerned.
Right. And so you mentioned earlier about the changing role of the journalist, right? And parang you said in an interview na parang ngayon you have to, well, first of all, you can't really be neutral anymore. And you have to kind of take a more active stand. And this is kind of visible, like on Facebook, you're part of a digital entity called FYP.
Yes, fight.
Would you like to talk about a fight pala yun?
Well, both ways.
Both ways, right. And where you encourage actually people to, inform them and...
Alam mo, I'd like to first make a disclaimer that this is totally my point of view and it doesn't reflect the point of view of my employer or other organizations that I work for and I'm affiliated with. But I think journalism, I think objective journalism is not neutral. Parang neutrality is it's a misnomer for what we need to do as journalists because, I've been reading about it and way back the 1920s, journalists back then knew that people are biased by nature. They can't be totally totally neutral, because we all have our own backgrounds, we all have our different takes on issues. That's why they advocated for objectivity in journalism. But when they said objectivity in journalism, in the same way that in science, we apply certain methods to arrive at the truth, ganun din yung pine-prescribe nila na dapat sa journalism, you're aware of your biases and you use methods that are reproducible and are transparent, so you can arrive at the truth and not necessarily arrive at neutrality, if you know what I mean. Because the truth naman is not objective. The truth will always side with the particular person or with the particular cause once you find the truth, di ba? So, importante tingin ko na ang role ng mga mamamahayag is not just to present both sides, not to be a stenographer, but to find the facts and to present the facts in order to arrive at the truth. So that's yun ang punto de vista ko dyan. Therefore, as journalists, we shouldn't shy away from calling out what is true and what is not true. Totoo naman na hindi pa clear yan at certain times, and that's why it's important to hear from all sides of the story. Pero pag klaro naman na parang merong pagkakamali yung isang panig o nagsisinungaling yung isang panig o wala sila sa tama, we shouldn't be afraid to call that out.
Right.
That's kasi ano yan parang tinatawag nga yan na both sidism na really doesn't serve anyone's cause. In the US right now, that's becoming more and more clear, no? Na parang there has to be, at a certain point, it's about moral clarity. Na kunyari, doon sa Black Lives Matter movement, do you present both sides and say, okay, Black Lives Matter, but the white supremacists also say this. Kumbaga, sabi ng mga African Americans, we have to have equal rights. Sabi ng mga white supremacists, no, the white race is superior. On both sides, you decide. Parang diba, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous that we don't do it.
Right.
Well, parang for me, parang the same way that we can make that kind of call, we have to make that kind of call whenever we report and we know what the truth is and we know what the moral thing is, di ba?
Right.
So that's my parang ano lang din parang parang ngayon sa climate change, parang may consensus naman na climate change is something that's happening na malaki talaga ang contribution ng activity ng mga tao. So you get stuck, before they were stuck with reportage that said these are what scientists are saying about the warming climate, but some people are saying that parang climate change is not real. Pero right now, when you look at the reportage, wala nang ganong parang false equivalence.
Right.
Parang the truth is clearly on one side, and you have to say that.
Right.
That's my philosophy when it comes to my job.
And this is something you impart to the younger generation. Something I admire about what I saw in Fight is your camp journey.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, well, sa Fight kasi we're a small independent media organization, and we try to parang hindi naman kami nagko-compete syempre sa mga big news organizations. What we try to do is to empower community journalists and to parang tell people in far-flung areas, as far as we can reach them, that parang to empower them to tell the story about their own communities. Parang to tell them that we have this wonderful thing called the internet. We have social media. For all of its faults, we should maximize its advantages. And parang we want to empower you to tell the story about your community kasi kayo naman ang nakakaalam talaga what's going on. And parang tinatry namin is to give them the right tools, to give them the right training, and to also link them up with each other so that we form a community. Para kahit yung pag-deliver ng mga information, ng balita, it reaches a wider audience. So that's what we've been trying to do. And parang during the pandemic, meron kaming mga parang really cool success stories about kunyari sa Homonhon in Eastern Samar. Merong story doon about yung black sand mining, and people there were really passionate about yung may operations na nagko-continue, no? So ginawa nila ng storya, tapos nung umabot sa national level yon, na hindi mangyayari kung hindi nila rin-report kasi dahil sa lockdown, wala namang makapuntang mga reporters doon. So parang yun yung isa sa mga examples namin na, it works. So
right.
we want to replicate that in other parts of the country.
So mga Gen Z na to, di ba? The kids.
Well, Gen Zs and millennials din naman.
Millennials, yes. So do you see hope in the youth?
Mga Zoomers na ata ang tawag sa kanila.
Mga Zoomers.
Oo naman. I mean, kung walang pag-asa ang kabataan, ano pang pag-asa ang pinag-uusapan natin? I mean, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic, and ngayon nakikita ko naman yung kung gaano ka-active yung mga kabataan online. Parang I think the kids are all right.
Right.
And kumbaga, they're also fearless. They're full of idealism, and that's always the yun naman ang defining characteristic ng youth, eh. And it's nice to see that.
It's very encouraging, and in a lot of your talks with the youth, you often tell them to not be afraid to fail and not be afraid to make mistakes. And about 3 years ago, so you left your old station to pursue new things, and among which was to make a film, Citizen Jake.
Oh, okay.
And every time we try something new, and I know this right now because I have left like 25 years of lifestyle media practice to try something new. So every time you try something new, you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to criticism and even ridicule. And this is something that you did with Citizen Jake. You said it was a leap of faith to try to be an actor. So what made you say yes? And looking back, what did you learn from the whole experience, bad and good?
Yeah. It's nerve-wracking, no? Parang doing something new.
Yes.
Ano siya, eh, parang you find that boost of confidence when you're just about to say yes. And then parang you feel kind of invincible, na parang, alam mo may risk kasi parang theoretically, of course, merong risk. Pero at the back of your mind, parang you feel like, no, I'm gonna succeed. Parang don't worry. Kasi syempre, if you know you're going to fail, you're not gonna do it, right? So parang syempre, dun yung na-override ng kaba yung optimism, and that, wow, I think I can stumble. And
parang kaya ko yata.
Parang kaya ko yata.
Shit, bakit ba ako umo?
So yeah, I mean, I'm again, parang wala namang nagbago sa mga sinabi ko na rin before about my foray into the world of film. I am absolutely grateful for the opportunity, and I learned so much from that experience, from working with the legendary Mike De Leon, and also all of the actors that were involved in that project. I also contributed to the screenplay, witness ko yung pagbuo ng pelikula from the ground up, and those were all such precious opportunities. What did I learn from that experience? Marami. Some of that I'll keep personal, I guess. But definitely yung process of making a film, parang sabi ko nga, that's so priceless. I don't think anyone has that privilege, no, of seeing a movie being built from the ground up by no less than these film legends.
Right.
Anyone would kill for the opportunity. A lot of my friends na mga film buff, no, parang sobrang inggit na nagkaroon ako ng ganung chance.
And how did you? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and also, you know, parang kumbaga, speaking truth to power in a different medium. I come from the world of news, of journalism, but parang film is another thing altogether. Na in my very limited exposure and my very limited experience, nakita ko na parang grabe rin yung power niya. And parang
Right.
it should also be, kumbaga, it should also be used not just to entertain. I'm not saying that's invalid, but also if you can, to use the medium and to also push the envelope.
Right. How did you recover from the medyo not so pleasant aftermath of the medyo may konting mudslinging?
I mean, i-PPM na lang kita.
PPM mo na lang ako.
Ano naman, wala namang problema. Ano lang yun. It's one of those things na hindi mo na-anticipate. But parang it was overall a positive experience.
Oh, that's good. And so you said that you would probably not return to acting. Is this still true?
Madali naman kasi mahirap magsalita ng tapos eh. Kasi kahit naman dati hindi ko naman alam na gagawa ako ng pelikula eh.
Oh.
Pero nung dumating yung opportunity, parang biglang all of a sudden, wow, I want to do this.
Right.
Parang I'd be a fool to pass up the opportunity. Ngayon, hindi ko uli ma-imagine kung paano pa ako babalik. Parang unang-una, meron bang interesado? Pangalawa, para naman akong hindi ko naman pinapalabas na para akong inahabol. Not at all. No? Wala naman akong opportunities to give it a try. But parang, if not acting per se, parang I think nabuksan din yung mata ko sa possibility of film. And I'm really grateful for that. And maybe it's in the form of a feature documentary.
Okay.
Or maybe it's in the form of a narrative film. And maybe, I can explore whether or not parang there's some creators out there na pwede akong makasama sa team. Parang maraming possibilities pero hindi ko pa alam sa ngayon.
Right. And what did you learn about storytelling after making a film? You've said often that now it's so visual, and parang now more than ever, it seems that your why is telling stories. So are there things that you have been applying now that you learned from filmmaking? Or are they too technical?
Parang ayokong maging tawag dito. What's the word? Ayokong mag-overreach Parang I guess yung mga natutunan ko hindi naman directly na-apply ko ngayon sa ginagawa kong work sa media.
Okay.
Some of it may be technical, yung parang yun na nga yung paggamit ng certain
cinematic effects.
And so on. Of course, natutunan ko yan kay Mike.
But then pag journalism, you can't really editorialize it, even if visual, right? You cannot, like, maybe you want to make it cinematic, but is that still accurate reportage, or are you kind of coloring the lens?
There's an active debate. There's no set answer for that. Some people are of the belief that parang you have to have as little of an intervention in the story as possible.
Right.
Parang strictly observational, fly on the wall, let things unfold before your very eyes. And I see, ako, that's very attractive to me. Yung ganong style ng storytelling, yung observational documentary. Pero at the same time, tanggap ko rin na parang as a filmmaker or as a journalist, you make certain choices. So in the way that you present the story, the way you write it, the way you choose the sound bites that you're going to use, the shots that you're going to use, the way you color the final product, the music that you use. So hindi mo rin pwedeng sabihin na wala kang input eh.
Right.
You are still in charge of the story, and parang there's a lot that you can do to influence how that story is going to be perceived by the audience. So yeah, parang ano na ako doon, I just have to say that para kumbaga you just have to be aware that you make those choices as a journalist, and parang you live and die by those choices.
Right. I recall then in the latter part of your journalistic career, you suddenly slowly became open to presenting the personal side of you. Parang before hindi pwede. And then suddenly, when I'd call you for Cosmo Hawk, pwede na, di ba? Pwede.
O, baliktad nga eh.
Mag-shoot. The Cosmo Hawk with a shirt. Nung tinawagan kita for no shirt, sabi mo, parang hindi ko kaya. But anyway, parang you had like a...
Wala akong pay, no? Wala akong karapan nito.
I'm sure meron. And then I remember before, tinutulungan pa kita maghanap ng clothing sponsor. Pero ngayon, di ba, parang ikaw na yung nilalapitan, you're making TVCs. And so, parang nagkakaroon na ng celebrification and parang of a journalist, di ba? And then you told Escort, it can be a slippery slope if you don't have a strong core or a clear idea of you want to achieve. Kasi may overlap. Or do you stand in this?
You know, ano to eh, that's really, parang it'll take us another hour to discuss this whole thing. I don't have the answers.
Right.
I just have to be honest. The honest thing is, I'm a person with multiple interests, with many opportunities, and I make certain choices, and I stand by those choices, whatever the results may be.
Right.
I know myself pretty well, and I know where I stand.
Right.
I know which side I'm on.
Right.
And I have a clear idea of what I want to use my journalism for, and what I want to use the other platforms that are available for me or available to me for. Right now, I'm an advocate. I'm a goodwill ambassador for the UNHCR. Kumbaga, traditionally, that's kind of frowned upon. The fact that reporters, journalists get engaged in anything other than journalism. Kasi parang it goes back to the idea that we should be totally unattached, totally neutral, and so on and so forth. I have a different take on things. For me, what's important is yung transparency.
Right.
Na parang some people think that, or presume, or declare that they are neutral, but honestly, they're not. Maybe they're not aware of it. Maybe they're kidding themselves. Sometimes they're intellectually dishonest. Alam naman nila where they stand, but they claim that they're neutral. Sa akin, ang importante is you're just transparent. You just tell people where you're coming from, what are your possible conflicts of interest, and then you make the story, and you make your story based on facts, and you stand by your story, and let people watch it, knowing full well where you're coming from, and appreciate it for what it is. Take it at face value. Yung ibang mga ginawa ko, meron talagang tendency na parang, sabi mo nga, celebrityfication, kunyari, yung Citizen Jake, sa isang banda, ibang mundo yun eh. And part of promoting the film had to do with things that are not in the realm of my work as a journalist, diba? You have to give interviews, you have to talk to showbiz reporters. You have to tell them about the experience of making the film, about working with your co-actors, and parang you're already talking about yourself, which is parang kumbaga taboo. That's totally taboo for reporters, and I can understand why. Even more so now, I can totally understand why parang we sort of shy away from that. And kumbaga, I know why, and it's because it's a distraction. Parang when you're making your story, parang you want people to focus on the subject matter and not about the journalist, diba? So gets ko yun. Pero at the same time, kung meron kang kakayahan through your platform, through your recognizability, through your celebrity, to call people's attention to certain things that they wouldn't normally bother with, then parang it's also kind of criminal not to use that platform. Parang why not use my platform to call attention to, the plight of refugees, the plight of the internally displaced. To even with this pandemic, to kind of call attention to certain abuses that have to be acknowledged, and so on and so forth. So yun, parang I'm not saying that I'm doing it well, pero parang as long as I know what all of this is for, ano yung big picture for me, that becomes my guiding principle. That becomes my anchor, so that I don't get lost in all of it.
Which you do, in addition to little bits of letting us into your life, like that cute video you did with your sister, and then she teased you that you should have a TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So is that a platform that you will explore? Wala ka pang TikTok?
TikTok? Diyos ko naman.
At least meron kang TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah, TikTok. Wala so parang mga nag-TikTok, mga magagaling sumayaw. Parang wala naman ganun talent eh.
Meron din siyang information, parang non-sayaw based, pero parang hindi pa nagka-catch on. Meron naman siya.
Meron din. Maybe that would be worth exploring in the future.
Hindi pa siya nag-explore.
Meron lang ako concerns about the whole privacy.
The security.
Privacy and security of the app. Pero I'm willing to give it a shot pag napag-aralan ko na siya.
So do you ever relax? Like when was the last time you took a vacation? And what do you do in your free time? Who do you read? Do you read?
Yeah, well, ngayon, it's hard to say. Ngayon kasi parang we're all stuck at home. Pero as much as I can, I try to go on vacation.
What's the last place you went on vacation to?
Strictly on vacation, Morocco.
Oh, okay. Hindi yun work.
Hindi yun work. Yun. That was last year. Ngayon, wala na. All the plans are on hold, di ba? Kasi that's the kind of world we're living in. Pero importante yung relaxation eh. Ako nga parang ngayon, it's mostly watching stuff on Netflix. I haven't been able to read during this lockdown, which is kind of sad. But yeah, what's the last thing I read?
The last book you read?
The last book I reread actually is For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Wow.
Anyway, remember that book?
Revisiting.
Yeah, that one of the most heartbreaking stories.
Who inspires
one of
you?
The best war novels ever written.
Who inspires you now? You mentioned before Einstein, Jonas Salk, the inventor of the polio vaccine.
Wow. So, luma na yan. College
So ngayon, sinong mga new heroes mo? Kung meron man.
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I have a couple of people I look up to, kunyari sa mundo ng journalism. Sobrang dami na parang some of my heroes are sila Howie Severino, who I consider, although baka hindi niya alam, no? I consider my mentor, pero parang one way lang ata kasi hindi yata alam.
I'm sure you'll be so flattered.
Si Ma'am Jessica Soho, of course, who's been around for such a long time. Kumbaga, yung kanyang body of work is talagang untouchable. And other journalists from all networks, hindi naman ako nagdi-discriminate really.
Or how about international journalists?
Sila Christiana Manpur. Right now, actually,
do you admire Maria Ressa?
Of course naman. Si Maria, ano yan, from way back probe team, no? One of the pioneers. She was my boss in ABS.
Oh, right.
And then she created Rappler. She doesn't need additional plaudits or additional reinforcement from me, no? Parang she's been recognized all over the world, but she's one of the best. Mga photojournalists, sila David Guttenfelder, sila locally, I mean, ano to, no? Para sa mga mahilig sa photojournalist, maraming magagaling dito. Sila Rafi Lerma, sila Ezra Akayan, and one of my favorites, not just in the Philippines, but all over the world, si Hannah Reyes Morales.
Oh, yeah.
Who recently won a very prestigious award.
Right.
She's amazing, and she's making waves all over the world now. So, parang for younger journalists who want to pursue this field, this industry, maraming mga pwedeng pagkunan ng inspirasyon.
Right. You've often said that life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So what has kept you going for 16 years? If you could distill it into one trait or important inspirational tip or factor.
It's hard, no? It's hard to think about it in simple terms. I think parang earlier medyo na-describe ko na rin eh. Pero
or what gets you up in the morning when you don't feel like getting up?
Alam mo, I just want to make my parents proud, actually.
Wow!
Parang yun naman yun eh.
That's new. It's true, and yet it's new.
Not just my parents, even my sister, she's hard to please. I mean...
Yeah, that's very refreshing.
We want to make a difference in the world. We all do. We want to make what we do last a test of time. Pero parang at the end of the day, parang I just want to make them proud, I think.
And I'm sure you have succeeded. Thank you so much, Atom, for making time for us.
Thank you. Wow.
Please continue to be our vigilant eyes, ears, and mouth. And as you told Esquire as a journalist, to not just be a quiet observer of history unfolding, but also to carry out the duty to push it along in the right direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Myrza. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. This has been TikTok, and I'll see you soon.